Hey everybody! Today's vlog is intelligence. Um, it's probably why this makes sense to me of why part of the reason why I'm probably going to run for school board in my city. What happened to intelligence? Where are the people? Where are the smart people at? Not just street smart and wise, but book smart. People don't know how to spell anymore. When you get text messages from people, they have, like, I'm on the dating apps, and the girls don't know how to spell words. And they use abbreviations. And they use emojis and junk. They don't know how to spell. They don't know grammar. They use abbreviations. They, they just, they're stupid. And on top of that, heaven forbid, people don't know math. Like simple, basic concepts of mathematical understanding. Like, heaven forbid the power goes out at any business that exists, period. Because if the power goes out, the cash registers are down, and nobody knows at all. Fast food restaurant, the retail marketplace, whatever. Nobody knows how to do basic math and accept cash without ringing it up on a register. I mean, the prices on everything are literally, it's like nobody knows how to do math. Basic scientific principles, people don't know, they don't comprehend, they don't even understand. And don't get me started on history. Nobody even knows historical truth. It's not even like they preach or teach any historical truth. Half the junk you hear on the internet or TikTok or YouTube about history, half that stuff is like literally lies. And half the they don't even teach history right in school, let alone teach history correctly at all anyway. Half the textbooks of history textbooks are lies too. So, just saying. They don't even teach history. So, people don't have even a basic fundamental concept of spelling, English, grammar, literature. They don't they don't have a a basic understanding of mathematics and scientific concepts. They're stupid. They're unintelligent. They're just not intellectually sound. And on top of all of that, people have no sense at all at self-preservation and uh, uh, and survivalism and knowing how to do basic fundamental jobs that should be needed to know as a human being. People are people are not jack of all trades. They specialize in one thing, and it's a very limited, small thing to be thing. There was a day back in the day, in the olden days, when you went to school, you got an education. But you didn't just get a regular education. There was home economics, there was physical education, there was auto mechanics, there was trades being taught in high school, And when you graduated from high school, you were able to immediately go get a job. You didn't have to go to college because you would have a trade school technical degree. Why why is none of that taught in school? Why is why is basic survival training not taught in school? Why is the trades not taught in school? Why is home economics not taught in school? Why is fieldcraft not taught in school? Why is basic first aid not taught in school? Why is none of this stuff taught in school? Our government has failed our children because we do not teach children at all. First of all, our government has failed, and we have really failed men and little boys. We have failed boys and men more than we have failed women. Women and girls have been put on a pedestal. And actually, the educational system is actually designed for women and girls. And the majority of teachers are females. So, no offense, but females do not know how to teach boys. They do not know how to teach boys to be men. They do not know how to teach men. They do not know how to teach boys. And female teachers are also terrible at teaching girls because they do not know how to teach girls fundamental values that fathers would teach daughters back in olden days. Fathers would teach daughters what type of men not to mess with. And fathers would teach sons what kind of men to grow up to become. Mothers would teach sons what type of girls to avoid and would also teach sons the things they needed, what type of girls to pursue. They would also teach sons how to do things when they leave if you don't have a wife by the time they leave. And what I mean by that is the son either leaves home or mom and dad leave, as in they leave this plane of existence. Okay? Moms used to teach their daughters basic wifely duties and responsibilities. That's not taught at home, that's not taught at school, it's not taught at church. No one is teaching these boys and girls basic home economic responsibilities. Nobody's teaching them survivability responsibilities. No one's teaching them how to be self-sufficient. No one's teaching them how the healthy lifestyles. No one's teaching them physical education. That's why America's like one of the most obese countries in the world, because we're all fat because we eat too much and we eat too unhealthy foods, and nobody's teaching any of this in school or at home or in the churches. The three places that you're supposed to learn everything to be a man or woman: the home, the school, the churches. Well, you know what the problem with all three of them is? The lack of manliness, the lack of men. So you wonder why men go online and they go look at red pill content. One, schools are designed for women. Where's our equality? Okay, feminists. Hey, feminists. If y'all are really for equality, y'all would be pushing for there to be one male teacher for every female teacher, and every class would have both a male and female teacher in it. That would be equality. And you would teach that the men can teach the men because men are more designed to teach men. Why? Because they're men. And women are more designed to teach women. Why? Because they're women. It's really a logical conclusion there. That being said, men could teach women some things that women ought to know, and women could teach men some things that men ought to know. Like that song, I know some things a man ought to know. Well, I would counter that with, I know some things women ought to know. But you don't hear the counter version of that song being played on the radio. It's because in society, women are being put up to a pedestal while men are being pushed down. Because girl power, girl bosses, feminism. That's you. Bullshit. Right? Okay. Well, first place is the home. Well, most homes are single mother homes. And if they're not single mother homes, they're single mother homes because the high rate of divorce, because these court systems are automatically giving all the children to the mothers. They're single parent homes because women are incentivized with child support and spousal support and whatnot to even get divorced. They're also incentivized to, women have all the power. One, first of all, the women have the power to decide if they want to have the baby or not through via abortion. Then women have all the power to demand child support, and child support's not fair. The whole entire child support system is unequally and unfair because it demands based off of financial. It doesn't demand an equal amount regardless of how. Okay, let's just say for the sake of argument that we did have a fair child support system. Well, in that case, women would not be pursuing the richer men. There's literally cases of women who go after rich men to try to get pregnant by them so they can make more money in child support. If child support was fair and it was based off of the actual legitimate studies of how much children cost to raise, and you subtracted the amount of time that the child was in the father's custody, if child support was fair, and child support, matter of fact, we actually should abolish child support on the grounds that men don't get to choose whether they want to keep the child or not. That would be fair. Since men don't get to choose whether they want to keep the child, it's not fair for them to be forced into paying child support. Since men don't get 50-50, true 50-50 joint custody, where the man is full 100% full custodial guardian of the child while in their custody, and the woman is, and they don't get them for, like, say, a month at a time, and they switch back and forth from house to house, because even that would probably still not be truly fair because not every month is the same amount of days. But that would be the closest way that it could be fair. You get the kid for 30 days, give or take 1 day, because there's that, and then that real, and then back and forth. That would be true. And if that was the case, there would be no need for child support or spousal support because the father would be taking care of the child during his month. The mother would be taking care of the child during her month. She doesn't need any money. I mean, what is this idea of you getting full custody but you don't get full financial responsibility? When men get full custody of children, they have to take full financial responsibility of children. But when they don't get full custody, they still are required to pay financial custody of children. I digress. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that the men are not in the schools teaching men. and women proper ways. Things that are not even being taught in school at all. Civics, for another things that's not even being taught in school is civics. No one's teaching civics. What is civics? Civics are basic, fundamental, constitutional rights and understandings and what it means to be a citizen. What it means to be a citizen for your neighborhood, your city, your town, your country, your nation, your state, your homeland. No one is taught civics. Civics are not taught in schools. Trades are not taught in schools. Home economics is not taught in schools. None of this stuff is taught in schools. Self sufficiency is not taught in school. Basic math, um, basic accounting, basic money management skills. None of these are taught in schools. None of them are taught at home. They're not taught at home because the homes don't have the men. Most homes, the majority of homes, do not have the men in them anywhere to do that. The government has subsidized single women being single mothers. Get rid of that subsidization and men will come back. The schools has put women in a pedestal and has made the majority of teachers women and the majority of education is taught from a woman's perspective, from a female's perspective, um, from a and for females. It's been taught from a woman's perspective by females for females. It's not taught it's not taught from a male's perspective for males by males. So you wonder why the women don't the men aren't learning. You also wonder why. Here's another problem we have in schools. The school system has a problem with a thing called tenure. Even the colleges have a problem with a thing called tenure. Tenure is when you've been there so long that you cannot get kicked out regardless of what you do. Interesting. Another thing that's wrong with tenure is why should teachers not know what they're teaching? I mean, if the teacher can't pass the textbook without the answers in the textbook, the teacher's textbooks have the answers in them. If the teacher cannot, oh, and critical thinking is not even taught in schools anymore. No one teaches critical thinking. Critical thinking is where you answer the questions with like a written essay about why you think that's a better answer to the question. Instead, all we teach kids is A, B, C, D. Which answer sounds correctly? Which, if you read it from a logical perspective, you'll get most answers correctly anyway, because at least two of them make no sense at all, and then you narrow it down to two more questions. We teach kids the same way you would make money in a quiz game show. That's how our tests are run. Yeah, and you wonder why kids aren't being educated. Second problem is young teachers. Young teachers are fresh out of high school, going to college, and they go to college for 2 to 4 years, and they're already able to teach school. So we're looking at teenagers, high school, 16 to 18 year olds. We'll say 14 to 18 year olds. 14 to 18 year olds being taught by 18 to 25 year olds. both are still in their sexual prime. Let's put it that way. Do you think it's a good idea to put young male teachers with young male students? I mean, young female students. Do you even think it's a good idea to put young female teachers with young male students? Or either way, young teachers with young students, just in general, even if you throw in the same sex attractiveness stuff, you're literally, and this has been shown, we literally have several cases of male teachers with female students who have had to go to jail for that, and also women teachers with male students that have also gone to jail. And on top of that, even if you don't have the student teacher relations, um, you have the potential for teacher teacher relations when you have teachers that young. Why are we giving these jobs to young teachers? Probably because the older teachers are being forced to retire. And if they're not being forced to retire, they're being not given the resources that they need to actually teach the subjects that they need to teach. And the kids are not learning anyway. So, yeah. I mean, if the kids aren't learning, then the teachers don't want to teach. Especially the older teachers, because the older teachers are used to teaching their way. And now there's all these rules of how they can teach and what they can teach and what they can and cannot do to the students regarding like corporal punishment and the like, because we have gone soft on children. We choose not to discipline them anymore. We say that that is up to the parents' decision, but the parents don't discipline them either. Okay, so the men that are needed are not in. And you wonder why men want to go to a 2-year trade school instead of a 4-year college. Women are going to 4-year colleges because, again, colleges are run the same way school and high school is run. They're designed for women. Trade schools are run by men who are in the trade profession, been in that trade profession forever, their whole life almost, and they teach by example, they teach by experience, they teach by being men teaching to men. I'm not saying that women can't go to these trade schools. I encourage women to learn the same things men learn. I encourage men to learn the same things women learn. Why? Because then we have both a better understanding of each other, men and women, and a better understanding of how to do stuff without each other. If you're a man and you expect to marry a woman that does all your cooking and cleaning and house chores and housework, more power to you. Trad women are awesome. But shouldn't you also know how to do all that stuff? Yes. Because what if your woman gets sick? What if you don't find that woman immediately and you have to do all this stuff yourself before you find that woman? Exactly. Again, women, I encourage you to learn everything that men know how to do and know how to do it yourself. Yes, good job on you if you can find a man that does all that work, that knows how to do all that honey-do list. But shouldn't you also know how to do the honey-do list yourself? Because what if your man gets sick? What if you can't find that man that knows how to do all that stuff? You want free labor. You marry a man for free labor for his resources. But you should also know how to do all that stuff yourself. Why? Because you should be self sufficient. You want to claim you've got this, you want to claim that you're a girl boss, that you should be self sufficient. Or at least you should be able to be a helpmate to the husband that and learn from him the things that he knows, because what happens when he passes away, when he dies? What happens when the children are all gone, all the boy children are gone, all the girl children are gone, and you're at home alone by yourself with no husband? Or if the marriage doesn't work out and you get divorced, and now you can't find a second husband because nobody wants to marry you. You should have learned all you could from your husband and learned all you could from men in general to be able to be self sufficient and survive. Now, so we've established that the men are in majority, are not in families, so we don't have fathers. We've established that the men in majority are out of the school system. Like right now, the school board that exists, they're all females except one man, and not going to throw race into this or anything, but they're all black. Now, this makes no sense from a except one white. There's like two men. No, I think there's only one man, and there's one white, and the white girl is a woman. So the only man is also black. Does that make any sense? This makes no sense from a. They're talking. Okay, the Democrats. I'm just a side note here. Democrats always talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. How can you have diversity, equity, and inclusion when every member of the school board is black? Our schools in my town, I don't mind telling you where I live. I live in Memphis, Tennessee, and Shelby County. Shelby County and Memphis, Tennessee merged their school systems together, and our population is black, Hispanics, and whites. And yes, our majority population is black. Our second majority is whites, and our third number is Hispanics. Then we have a fourth class, which is really getting pretty high here, is Arab slash Islam, Muslims, right? Okay, so black, white, I think whites are actually getting lower here in Memphis. Now, if you go and add Shelby County as the total, they're probably still equal with blacks and whites are probably not, they're probably equal in about number size. So if you had, so we have those 4 or 5 different people in if we actually wanted to diversify the school system or the school board for that matter, it would be only fair to have at least, let's say there's 10 members of the school board, it would be fair to have 4 blacks, 4 whites, 2 Hispanics, and 2 wait. There's my bad. That was the wrong math. See, I'm trying to do math here. 3, 3, that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. It would be fair to have 3 blacks, 3 whites, 2 Hispanics, and 2 other ethnics, which would be Middle Eastern, Arabian, Muslim ish people. You know what else isn't taught in schools? Morality. We claim that morality should be up to the religion, should be up to the church. No, Morality should not be up to the church because the majority of people don't actually go to church. So religion should not be where we're teaching morality. Religion should be where we're enforcing morality, not teaching morality. There's a difference. Uh, Religion is how you enforce morality, not how you teach morality. Law is how you teach morality, and we're not teaching morality in church. We're not even teaching morality in church, let alone school. So morality is not even barely being taught at home. So yeah, morality should be being taught. Even if it's secular morality, it would still be some sort of morality. Like, where is our morality being taught? We're not. Our school system is literally being taught without morality and by basically secular humanism, which is basically atheism with a couple of sprinkles of morality. But it's also the morality that's taught is the weird morality that everyone has their own version of truth, or that everyone has to find their own truth, or that everybody. It's not something that applies to everyone. It's like, well, what's okay for you might not be okay for someone else. How? What kind of crazy morality is that? If we don't have standard, basic, fundamental truths of what is right and wrong with straight up black and white areas, no gray matters, we can't truly teach and understand a concept of morality. There has to be absolute rights and absolute wrongs and absolute truths. So, now, third place that, again, I've then hit hard on the home, hit hard on the school, I've hit hard on, now I'm going to hit hard on the church. And yes, I go to church. For the most part, I go to church. I go to multiple different churches because we're one body in Christ, right? Which means we should be learning from one another. The denominations should not be separate from one another. I'm Protestant, but I think there might be things to learn from the Catholics. There might be things to learn. I'm Baptist, but I think there's things to learn from other Protestant denominations. But the church in general, especially the Protestant church, especially here in America, because I'm an American, so I'm going to speak for Americans. But like I said earlier, we barely teach morality in church. What I mean by that is most churches, they teach some of the Bible. They don't teach the whole entire Bible. And most churches avoid as much as possible the issue of sin. And they avoid that. And then on top of all that, most churches have in America, in modern day America, and in Protestantism in general, have put have done the same thing the school system has done, and done the same thing the government has done. Put women on a pedestal and have beaten men down. Go to a Mother's Day service and a Father's Day service at church, and you'll hear how great mothers are on Mother's Day, not what it really takes to be a mother, but you'll hear, and on Father's Day, you won't hear a sermon of how great fathers are. Instead, you'll hear a sermon about what it requires to be a father, what a man should do, what a real man should be, what a biblical man is. And the church does not hold women to the same standards and accountability that they hold men to. You hear so much beating men down at churches instead of lifting men up. and you hear no, the women are just as wrong. For example, men are told porn is bad, but women aren't told romance novels are the equivalent of porn. Men are told being single is not is bad, and that they should be getting married. But women aren't told how to be a virtuous woman. Men aren't taught which type of women to go after. They're just taught, oh, she's a good Christian girl, marry her. So you won't be single. Yeah, and you wonder why the divorce rates in churches are as high, if not higher, than the divorce rates outside the churches. Well, one, because you're not teaching women to be wives, and you're not teaching men what they need to look for in a wife in the churches and in society in general. And you wonder why men are leaving the churches and going and learning from this red pill, black pill, passport bros, etc. communities. Or women or men are just leaving the churches. In some cases, men are going to more male dominated churches, which would be traditional orthodoxy churches, but that's not helping the men and the women get together and thus procreate and thus create more families and thus create more morality and more, that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So, am I blaming it on men? No, I'm not blaming it on men. I'm blaming it on women for pushing men away. I'm blaming it on society for pushing men away. I'm blaming it on the government for incentivizing the women and not incentivizing the men. For another example, testicular cancer and breast cancer. This is just a societal example of what I'm talking about. The government funds so many millions of dollars of research for breast cancer. There's even a breast cancer awareness month. There's like all kinds of pink things for the breast cancer stuff. Women have they have breasts, they have boobs, okay? They have tits. If I get demonetized for saying that stuff, I don't care. Guys have balls. Ovarian cancer and breast cancer get more research and funding and acknowledgement of it than testicular cancer. That being said, more men get testicular cancer than women get breast cancer. More men get testicular cancer than women get ovarian cancer. But we don't have equal funding, we don't have equal research, and we don't have equal representation for the male cancer as we do for the female cancer. Where are our testicular cancer runs? Our testicular cancer walks? Our testicular cancer funding? Our testicular cancer research? Shouldn't that be equal to the male female cancers? If women cared about equality, feminism truly cared about equality, like they claim to care, they would want equal funding for male cancers and the like. Just saying. Anyway, so the churches don't teach sin. They don't preach sin. They don't teach morality. They don't preach morality, and they don't basically, for the most part, don't even teach the Bible. The mega churches are teaching a false gospel, the gospel of health and wealth, and they are teaching a false gospel of sowing your seeds and um, health and wealth and prosperity, gospel preaching stuff. And they're teaching basically you got motivational speakers as preachers. And all of that, you have no female accountability. Female accountability is all thrown in the trash in the garbage can. I mean, we're even at a point where the passage in the Bible that tells women what they should do in church has been denounced in modern day times as well. That only applied to that one church because the women were acting crazy and not doing right in that one church. Well, if you ask me, then women are acting crazy and not doing right nowadays in the majority of churches. So maybe we should preach, get back to that type of church. Yeah, just maybe we should get back to that type of church. So things that are not taught in anywhere anymore is self-sufficiency, self-reliance, survival training, um, basically stuff that the boys had to learn in Boy Scouts, but Boy Scouts got all ruined when it became just Scouts, and it also got ruined when you started letting the LGBT community in. Um, Something that is contrary to Boy Scouts. Now, I know that Boy Scouts for some reason is still existing, but it keeps getting smaller and smaller. But they promote the Girl Scouts. I don't hear much about Boy Scouts. You used to, like, there was a time when if you went to Boy Scouts and you became like Eagle Scout, you could use that on your resume to like get jobs and stuff. Like it was like really something you could use that on your college. You know, colleges would that would help you get scholarships and whatnot for colleges and different things because it was like skill based achievement and stuff. Maybe we should go back to skill based achievements. People need to be taught skills again. I mean, if you really want to, you could actually just make all these things that aren't being taught. You could teach all this in schools, and the fact that they're not is just ridiculous. The fact, heck, you could literally. So, if you're a parent and you have boys and girls, I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to actually put them in a Boy Scout program or any of this. You could literally become your scoutmaster, and you could literally just get old books, Boy Scout books, and requirements of the Boy Scouts, and literally just have them earn. And you could copy printouts of the merit badges, and when they earned the merit badge, just print it out for them that they earned it and sign over that they earned it based off of the requirements that were in the Boy Scout requirement manuals. You don't have to actually need a troop to do this. And you, as the parent, as the scoutmaster, so to speak, could decide if that requirement is necessary in your opinion, or you could you could change the requirements. You could be like, okay, he didn't quite make it on this one requirement. He got this requirement about 70%. You could determine like how much you could return. See, it's not fair. In my opinion, the Boy Scout system wasn't fair because you had to fulfill all the requirements to get that merit badge. I think if you didn't fulfill like one or two of them, that you were close enough, right? And you should get the merit badge for like maybe 70 to 80% of it getting done should count as a pass, right? Or maybe you didn't fulfill the completely fill the requirement, but maybe you should have gotten it anyway because you did most of what would take to put a check mark down, and maybe you did over in abundance on one, so shouldn't that include, you know, just like for the sake of argument, some of them are like requirements are pretty easy, and some of them like naming the 10 animals or whatever, for example, is one. If you name 20, wouldn't that count as two check marks for that one, and that could override another check mark? I'm saying you could create your own structure of rules around how to give out the merit badges. That's all I'm getting at. Anyway, all that being said, people just are not intelligent. They don't have skills. They don't have useful skills. They don't have valuable skills. They don't have street smarts. They don't have. They're not. They're not self-reliant. They're not self-sufficient. They're not self-resilient. Math is gone. Sciences are gone. Uh, Basic knowledge is gone. History is terrible. Uh, Grammar, English, literature, spelling, all that's trashed. Uh, Society in general is just stupid. Stupid. No civics, no morality, no nothing. The places we learn are supposed to learn all three of these are have been decimated. They're garbage. The home, the church, the school, all of those places have all none of them are doing a really good job of any of this. And you wonder why the dropout rate is high. You wonder why men are checking out. You wonder why society is getting in shambles. It's because the red pill, and you wonder why people are going toward the red pill and the black pill and the other pills communities. And you wonder why women are like, where are all the good men? Well, you pushed them away. You stopped teaching men how to be good men. You don't allow men to teach men. You kicked men out of society. You kicked men out of their male spaces. You invaded all their places. Yeah, so this video is a lot longer than I expected it to be. Anyway, it's a long video. So, what's the solution? Well, the solution would be simple. Bring the patriarchy back, okay? How do we do that? Well, we got to get men back. Well, how do we do that? Well, first of all, we got to stop the malarkey that men are evil and men are bad and men are. We got to start training men how to be men. We got to train men to be men. We got to train them the way they understand, which means we got to have men teach men. Men train men. We need male teachers. We need male role models. We need to teach boys trades. We need to teach boys cool stuff that they like. We need to make education entertaining toward boys, toward men. We need to stop teaching men that the wrong type of morality and teach men the right type of morality. Morality from the great religious textbooks of all time. The greatest, in my opinion, is the Bible. Uh, there's so many great male role models in there. In that book, you are shown both the things the men do wrong and the things the men do right. God does not. He doesn't sugarcoat stuff. So he shows that even for example, David, which there's a movie coming out about him, um, man after God's own heart, did so many bad things. Solomon, smartest man ever, messed up with women, did so much bad things. Uh, Joshua, led the Israelites into great victorious wars. Every guy in the Bible, every man in the Bible, Paul, even Paul, who wrote like half the New Testament, um, the canonized New Testament anyway, um, he used to persecute Christians and was a citizen of Rome and a Jew and held the cloaks of those who stoned Stephen, and guy was like a freaking murderer and stuff, right? Okay, and he got saved and changed. Like seriously, there's so much, so much, so much. People talk about Mary and Martha, right? They talk about them a lot, but they do realize that Jesus had 12 male disciples, apostles. Okay, 12 male apostles, and out of those 12, he only had one betray him. Interesting, right? Interesting. Yeah. So anyway, I just say we gotta bring men back, and we can do that. And the start is putting more men in the school board here in Memphis, Shelby County area. We have a male epidemic, and the problem isn't men. The problem is how men are treated in society by women, by feminism, by liberalism. You wonder why men are not joining. Hey, Democrats, you wonder why men are not joining the left? It's because you're catering to women and not catering to their needs. Some men are even leaving the Republicans because the Republicans are not doing, they're not learning the lesson. They got too many conservatives in the Republican ranks. Yeah. You wonder why there was a bunch of people voted for Trump. A bunch of men voted for Trump. Because Trump spoke to men. Trump is literally the epitome of what every man would want in their life. When he was young, he was a playboy and that could have and probably did have almost any girl he wanted. He got rich, filthy rich. He grew as he like if you look at Trump's life, it is literally the life of what a man would want. Younger days, partying, getting with all the women he wants. Had wife after wife where he had child after child after child. Men want children. We want to leave a legacy. Got filthy rich, created an empire. Men want to create an empire. Men want to be empires. And you wonder why men think about Rome all the time. We don't think about the bad things of Rome. We think about the imperial Rome. We think about the soldiers of Rome. We think about the citizens of Rome. We think about the politicians of Rome. We think about all the things Rome gave to society. We think about the uh, the politics of Rome. We think about the religion of Rome. We don't actually think about the everyday average person of Rome. Think about the conquests of Rome. We think about the expansion of Rome. We think about the pure empire and the military and the politics of Rome. Men love Rome because Rome was a manly culture. Men love Trump because Trump is a manly man. And you wonder why they're going toward these men online on communities because they're manly. That's why they tell the men. Some of them are grifters that are telling the men what they want to hear. I'll agree with that. But some of them are coming up with legitimate concerns, legitimate questions, legitimate answers. And nobody else is asking these questions. No one else is coming up with, is having these concerns, and no one else is coming up with answers, and no one else is coming up with ideas or solutions. Everybody else is like, let's just keep the status quo, it's fine. Or let's just keep catering to women, it's fine. Or we can, the women aren't the problem. It's you men that need to man up. The more you, yeah, right, exactly. The more you cater to one side or the other side, the inevitable civil war is going to happen. You wonder why the left and right are divided and so hotly heated. You wonder why male and women are divided and so hotly heated. And proof that women want to follow men is simple. Even the men that even women are voting in their not in their worst interest when they're voting for liberal Democrats. But then again, who are these liberal Democrats that are the popular people? Who get the votes? It's not females that run for office, but males who run for office in the Democrat circles. Proof was New York just electing a good looking guy. Looks good in a suit. And he just promised women every and a whole bunch of other people, he promised them free stuff. There's a reason why people voted for JFK. There's a reason why people voted for the hot man to run for office because he was hot. Okay? It had nothing to do with his politics or personalities. He promised you stuff that he cannot deliver on. Male politicians that promise people stuff that they cannot deliver on easily sway the women Democrat vote. Easy. You know who else promised? Just a little side note before I end this video. You know who else promised a woman something that he couldn't deliver on and used lies to do it? I believe that was the serpent to the first woman in the Garden of Eden. He promised things that he couldn't keep, and he told lies to get her to eat of the forbidden fruit of knowledge of good and evil. Who was the serpent? The serpent was the devil. The devil was Lucifer. Demonic. So Lucifer was the first politician. Democrats. Demonic. Why are both of them start with D's and both so closely related in sounding? Democrat. Demonic. Interesting. Just a coincidence, huh? Maybe. Anyway. Republican. Can. We can. Because we can. Anyway, I talked for like over an hour, and I don't know if y'all even listened to or watched all of it, and y'all are hearing any of my ramblings. It's just like so much we could do to fix the educational system. And I haven't even gotten started on the proof that it's super corrupt, because yes, it is super corrupt, and that'll have to be a whole nother video. But just if we could just get people educated, like seriously, people are just uneducated. They're literally, society has pumped out a whole bunch of stupid people. They literally are told, you're grown, you're a grown adult, you're 18, and the majority of these 18-year-olds literally know nothing. I mean, there was a time in the past when, historically speaking, I could do a whole entire video about how people historically, like we had a president, just going to throw out this fact. There's a fact, we had a president who was in the Civil War. He was a general. He became a president. Ulysses S. Grant. Now, Ulysses S. Grant. Okay. He knew. He was ambidextrous, like myself. He knew 4 languages fluently. That means he knew how to read the language, he knew how to write the language, and he knew how to speak the language. 4 languages. Not only did he know 4 languages fluently, but the dude could write in 2 separate languages simultaneously with both hands. Our founding fathers, okay, just hear me out here. Our founding fathers, the ones that founded this nation, all were jack of all trades. Every single one of them was a jack of all trades. They all had multiple trades. They all did multiple things. The writer of the Constitution, Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson, he is described as the writer of the Constitution, right? Okay. Fun fact: stuff that's not even taught in history school. This is why history needs to be taught better. Okay. And with more fun facts, more interesting, cool stuff about people. Fun fact: the modern day chair with wheels on it, you know, the office chair that has wheels on it, that would have not existed if it wasn't for this guy. This guy, he got tired of getting up all the time and moving from here to there, from one desk to another desk, to read all these different manuscripts and to write all these different papers and stuff. So the guy figured out, he said, how can I stay seated and get from there to there so I don't have to get up so much? And he literally invented the idea of putting wheels on a chair. He literally invented the idea of the swivel, making the chair where it could move. So, in his free time, amongst doing all this government work stuff, he was like, I'm going to invent something that'll make my life a little more efficient where I don't have to stand up so much and I don't have to get up all the time. What can I do? And he created the modern office chair. There's so many anecdotes about our founding fathers that did stuff like that it's like ridiculous. But the only one we care, but instead we've been so dumbed down in society that we just go with the idea that, oh, Adams, oh, isn't he Samuel Adams? Oh, isn't he the one we got beer named after? But he did so much more. Come on, jeez Louise, people. I mean, come on. There's just so much that we can learn. And we're only taught about maybe 5 of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. If you look into the lives of every signer of the Declaration of Independence, oh my gosh, just jeez. And yes, the early days of America, the early days of the Republic, America. Um, yes, you should not just learn about the winners, but you should learn about the. Seriously, look into like the people who didn't become president and that were vice president, and just look at all the stuff they accomplished and they did. Look at like into all the various different politicians that were around and statesmen, because they were statesmen back then, and they did a lot of stuff. Like they they like I mean, yeah, they did a lot of stuff. Just saying. So like, history is amazing. History is awesome, and we don't teach it in schools. It's like, because we don't teach it in an entertaining and cool and awesome way like we should. We should teach history in an awesome, entertaining way. Not that it's just facts and figures, and then we should debate and deliberate. We don't have any of that in school anymore. We don't have debating and deliberating. It's like, here, read the textbook. Here, take the test. Okay, you passed. It's so boring. Don't get me wrong, Bill Nye the Science Guy was entertaining. He should stick with being entertaining because now he's like, boo. Go back to stuff like that. That used to be stuff we had on Saturday morning. When we were not in school, we had in between our cool action-packed cartoons, we had these goofy, weird educational shows. Even our cartoons were educational, like where is Carmen Sandiego? Like that show was completely teaching us history, geography, and all that, right? Like all that was just thrown in that show. And it was entertaining. And then we had Schoolhouse Rock. Schoolhouse Rock. Man, it taught us math and science and grammar and history and all kinds of stuff. Schoolhouse Rock. Come on. Rock on. Anyway, just saying. Bring that stuff back. Like, put it. You don't even have to, like. You just have to play reruns. I swear. Just play reruns on Saturday mornings. Instead, now all we care about is animals. Like, I don't even see any good cartoons on Saturday morning for our kids to watch. I see, like, shows about animals and wildlife. Who love animals more, boys or girls? Girls. Again, even our Saturday, Sunday morning TV shows are being catered to girls. Yeah. Even our soap opera dramas. Okay, we had soap opera dramas back in the olden days too. But we had shows where the men were the role models in the soap opera dramas. Um, Now our soap opera dramas, the women are the role models. Even the women are the whole soap opera dramas shows are catered to women. I could go on and on and on, but I'm just going to quit because the video is just getting longer and longer. Anyway, remember, God is good all the time. All the time, God is good. Jesus is God. Jesus is Lord. Jesus is King. Jesus is ruler of everything. And Scarborough for school board. Vote Jeff. Yeah. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hype. Uh, do all the things. How can we fix education? Seriously, how can we get education back for boys and men? How can we get society smart again? I mean, if we want to make America great again, we got to make America smart again. We got to make America efficient again. We got to make America self-reliant, self-resilient, and self-sufficient again. America for Americans. America for all. But right now, America is like, it's like bad. Our education's bad. Corruption is bad. There's a great divide between men and women. There's a great divide between blacks and whites. There's a great divide between male and female. None of this should exist. This is America. This is the melting pot. This is the land of the free, the home of the brave, and the land of opportunity. Yeah, this is America. Let's make America great again. Let's make America smart again. Later. Hope you enjoyed the video.